Stuntman is a very interesting game that has quite a bit going for it. For one, it's a premise that's a bit different than most other games I've ever played. Sure, it's a driving game, but how many can you think of that purposely have you completing stunts to finish a level? I know, I can't think of anything. Anyway, Stuntman is a pretty self-explanatory on what it is. You are given a movie that you must provide stunts for. The director will guide you on where to go and what to do, along with little icons that appear at times. These icons signify what stunts must be done, and if you miss one, it's usually not an immediate failure, but skip too many of them and the scene must be redone. It may sound relatively simple, but I can assure you, it is definitely not. Before I get into specifics, let me explain how the game works. When you start a new character, you first name him, and then are thrust into the first movie. The Stuntman gives a bit of background info on the film, and then explains what the current scene entails. After you get another loading screen, the game finally starts properly. As I said, the gameplay is simple enough. When you start, the director will give you instructions. You'll see green arrows that will guide you on the correct path to take. If you veer too far in the wrong direction, the scene will be stopped and you'll be yelled at for going off course. Anyway, you'll be instructed on which stunts to complete. Most of the times, it could be as simple as hitting a small object, overtaking a vehicle, or getting close to something. If you don't perform the designated stunt, you'll just be docked a bit of pay, but usually you can keep going unless you miss too many, in which case, it'll only tell you after the scene is completed. See this green meter on the top left of the screen? Well, that's essentially your scene completion meter. The top bar shows you how many stunts you have remaining. The bottom one will indicate how many you have either successfully performed or failed. If you failed a stunt, the block it correlates to will turn red. The game won't tell you if you failed too many stunts until the end of the scene. Oftentimes, the meter is taken up primarily by one stunt, which is normally the final one. Typically, if you miss this one, the scene will be considered a failure. These stunts often consist of jumping to a very specific location or using nitro to gain some extra speed to clear a huge jump. After completing a scene, you're given your pay rate, which is basically like a score. The money that you earn isn't really used for anything, other than giving you promotions and unlockable stunt arena objects. These things are only unlocked once you reach a certain cash threshold, and these rewards are only given out after you complete the movie you're working on. After you finish all the scenes in the current movie, you'll be shown a trailer for the movie you were working on. Although some stunts that you perform will be shown, a lot of the trailer will include footage from the movie. This is a pretty cool bonus to completing the movie. Also, after every film, you'll be given what can be considered a bonus stunt. This is basically a stunt show, in which you must perform a stunt that you would typically see if you went to a stunt show at a local raceway. These consist of things like knocking down vertical vehicles to jumping through a ring of fire. All in all, these are extremely simple and gives you a nice easy stunt to perform in between the more frustrating movie scenes. The game is fun, don't get me wrong, but there are quite a few problems that make it a bit more frustrating than it needs to be. For one, the car's driving controls are pretty slippery. That's not to say that's a bad thing, as the game tries to go for realism with its physics, but I think that the steering is a bit oversensitive. As long as you can get used to doing gradual overtakes and sharp turns, you should be okay. My biggest problem with the game is the hit detection. Sometimes it just feels like no matter how lightly you tap another car or wall, your vehicle spins out of control. This can be simply infuriating. Normally, if you get spun out even one time, you may as well restart the scene because chances are you'll run out of time before you can reorient yourself and drive in the correct direction. In addition, ramps don't always direct you on which direction you need to be heading in. Sure, you know there's a ramp there, and you have a general idea on where you're supposed to be going, but once you hit the ramp, you may find out that shit, I was supposed to do a sharper turn to land on this platform. This is really noticed in the first scene of the third movie, where you're driving through an office building. You're told to jump off the ramp, and you do so, but then find out that the landing area was far to the right. Well, if this was your first attempt, it's nearly impossible to know this without already being told that the landing area was to the right. Loading times are also pretty lengthy, adding into the frustration factor. On the start of the scene, you'll be shown a little behind-the-scenes look at the stunts your guy will be doing, and will often also explain what the movie is about in the first scene of the film. After this, you'll sit through a loading screen, then another video will play, explaining the details of the stunts in that scene.
Blood Oath is a hard-edged thriller. Here we've got rival gangs fighting for control of the Bangkok streets. The actor I double for is racing against time, speeding down the freeway, smashing through a rigged office building, and jumping out through the window at the end.
After this, you'll get through another loading screen, and then the game will allow you to finally drive. If you fail, you'll have to sit through another loading screen while everything gets reset. It can be agonizing when it feels that all you're doing is sitting through loading screens. Now that I'm done with the main challenges of the game, there's a few other things I'd like to discuss. For one, every level actually feels like the set of a movie. You'll see cameras in certain locations, the director will be shouting things at you, and oftentimes vehicles will be seen starting and stopping on cue on where you are. For example, in the first scene of the third movie, you're tasked with sideswiping a bus. As you approach this exit, you can actually see the bus at a complete standstill, and when you get to the exit, it starts to move. Granted, it seems to pick up speed quicker than any bus I've ever ridden, but it's still neat to see. You can also see vehicles stopping at checkpoints, as if they are not necessary for the rest of the scene. There are also a few diversions that you can participate in. There are a few driving games, which are similar in nature to the bonus stunts in the main career. There's also a construction arena, which is like a build-a-course feature prominent in the Tony Hawk Pro Skater games. You're given access to various props, and can place them to your liking and create your own stunt. It's fun to play around with, but there are a few downsides to this. For one, the actual amount of props is limited. You are also limited to what you've already unlocked from the main career. The game also doesn't give you any sort of indication on the memory remaining for prop placement, so you'll just abruptly be told that you're maxed out on stuff you placed. All in all, this only amounts to maybe a dozen things you can place down on the map, which is really disappointing given the amount of room you have available. It's still fun to play with though, especially if you have a friend over and you just want to kill some time. I think that pretty much sums up Stuntman. It's a fun, unique game, although it can be fairly frustrating at times. For as maddening as it is, I still enjoyed it, and if you're into driving games, I'd recommend it, at least for an afternoon. Final score? 7 out of 10. This is Reaper, facebook.com/ReapersReviews. Happy fragging.